21 years of marriage, 3 children, and $1 million life, until a broken red vase revealed the cracks beneath the perfect marriage. Was the person who took her life a mysterious third party who vanished, or someone much closer to home? In 2012, the case unfolded in Newport Beach, California, one of the wealthiest cities, not just in California, but in the entire United States. Often referred to as Southern California's premier coastal retreat, it's a place where parking a car in the front and docking a boat in the back is a common sight. The incident began on the afternoon of October 10, 2012, at a private high school in Huntington Beach. As school let out, 2 brothers waited at the bus stop for their parents to pick them up. However, as time passed, neither parent arrived, and repeated phone calls went unanswered. As most students had already left, a neighbor happened to pass by. Seeing the 2 boys still waiting, and since it was on the way, he offered them a ride home. When they arrived, their parents were nowhere to be found. Concerned, the neighbor took the children to a nearby relative's house. From what the neighbor knew about the couple, it was completely out of character for them to abandon their children without notice. This unusual behavior raised concerns, prompting the neighbor to call the police, hoping they could help locate the missing parents. Newport Beach police received the missing persons report and quickly launched an investigation. The home in question was a $2.5 million mansion owned by 57-year-old Peter Chadwick and his wife, 46-year-old Kui Chu, originally from China. They lived there with their 3 children, who at the time were 8, 10, and 14 years old. At first glance, when police entered the first floor of the house, nothing seemed out of place. Everything was tidy, almost as if it had been recently cleaned. However, when investigators went upstairs, they found something unusual in the master bedroom's bathroom. A decorative red vase near the bathtub was shattered, with shards of glass scattered across the floor. Tiny blood splatters were visible on the walls and around the bathtub. Nearby, blood-stained towels were haphazardly thrown on the floor, suggesting a struggle had taken place. As officers searched further, they discovered a safe in the home office that had been opened and was now completely empty. This immediately caught the attention of the local community. Crimes like this were rare in Newport Beach, a neighborhood known for its wealth and exclusivity. Was this a home invasion, a robbery gone wrong, or something even more sinister? Where were the homeowners? Whose blood was in the bathroom? According to the investigation, Peter was born in England, while his wife, Kui Chu, was originally from Malaysia. Before they fell in love and got married, both attended Arizona State University. They had been together for over 20 years. Neighbors described Kui Chu as friendly and compassionate. Although she was a full-time stay-at-home mother, raising their 3 children, her cheerful personality made her well-liked in the community. In addition to taking care of her family, she was always willing to help others in need, often volunteering in local charity work. Peter, on the other hand, was seen as a respected businessman in the neighborhood. He had capitalized on the booming real estate market, turning a small company into a multi-million-dollar real estate business. Based on the condition of the crime scene, police believed the incident was unplanned and impulsive rather than a premeditated crime. There were visible signs of haste and disorder, suggesting an act committed in a moment of panic. Could this couple have angered someone, or had their wealth made them a target? One thing that puzzled investigators was surveillance footage from a nearby camera. It showed the couple's SUV leaving the house at 1 p.m. that day. However, due to the camera's angle, it was impossible to tell who was driving. Because of this, both Peter and Kui Chu were officially classified as missing persons. As the minutes passed, while police scrambled to find leads, a shocking twist occurred the following morning. A 911 call from San Diego, nearly 100 miles away, changed everything. A terrified man on the other end of the line said, "He's dead. They killed him yesterday. They took his body. They said they would cut it into pieces." The dispatcher, stunned, asked who had taken the body. The man responded, Juan. When asked for his own name, the caller hesitated before saying, "Peter Chadwick." The missing homeowner had just surfaced, According to Peter's statement to the police on the day of the crime, he hired a painter named Juan to do work on the walls and fences. When Peter went into the living room to grab something, Juan suddenly vanished. Moments later, Peter heard his wife scream from upstairs. He rushed to the master bedroom's bathroom, only to witness a horrifying scene. Juan had killed his wife while she was in the bathtub. Peter claimed that once Juan realized he had been caught, he threatened him at knife point, forcing him to wrap Quichu's body in a blanket and load it into the back seat of their SUV. Juan then forced Peter to drive to San Diego. In San Diego, they met another man named Chi. Chi and his accomplices moved Quichu's body into the trunk of the SUV and drove away, leaving Peter stranded at a gas station. Peter said he used the gas station phone to call the police. In other words, Peter implied that he was also a victim. Before the call ended, San Diego police tracked Peter's location through their system and quickly dispatched officers to the gas station, where they found him and took him into custody. At that moment, he was not officially arrested, as police needed to interrogate him first before drawing conclusions. However, Peter's bizarre story immediately raised suspicions. It sounded too far-fetched. During the interrogation, Peter kept repeating the same strange version of events. But when detectives pressed him on inconsistencies, he avoided answering, showed a defensive attitude, and eventually told the police, "I have the right not to answer any questions." He refused to cooperate further unless his lawyer was present. Besides his increasingly defensive attitude, police also noticed several scratches on Peter's body, particularly on his arms, which resembled bite marks. His clothing had suspicious red stains, which immediately raised questions about whether they could be blood stains. Based on these observations, investigators could not ignore the possibility that Peter himself was responsible for his wife's death. Interrogation can sometimes feel like a game of chess. The police decided to make their move, believing that Peter was lying and that his story was riddled with holes. They played the emotional card, urging him to think about his young children. If he had any conscience left, he should tell the truth so his children could at least know where their mother was. Perhaps this tactic struck a nerve. 7 days after Quichu went missing, Peter, through his attorney, informed the police that he had killed his wife. He confessed to dumping her body in a trash bin in the Wildcat Canyon area near San Diego. Authorities eventually located the trash bin and found Quichu's body wrapped in a blanket. The local coroner's report confirmed that she had been strangled to death. Before she died, she had suffered a brutal beating and severe injuries, making it clear that she had died a horrific and violent death. At this point, Peter admitted that his story about the painter killing his wife was completely fabricated. He was formally arrested and charged with her murder. On December 21, 2012, nearly 2 months after the crime, Peter was granted bail. His father posted a $1 million bond and surrendered Peter's U.S. passport to the police. Authorities allowed Peter to live with his wealthy father at his home in Santa Barbara while awaiting trial, under the condition that he personally appear at every court hearing. Time passed quickly, and 2 years went by. During this time, Peter appeared at every scheduled court hearing, keeping up his promise. However, police had no idea that this was all part of an elaborate act. When his preliminary hearing was set for January 2015, Peter suddenly failed to appear without any prior notice. Police quickly realized he had vanished and rushed to his Santa Barbara residence, but he was nowhere to be found. His family claimed they didn't know where he was, but it was clear that they were covering for him. Investigators reviewed surveillance footage from Santa Barbara Airport on January 9, 2015, which showed Peter arriving by taxi. However, 6 hours later, he was seen leaving the airport wearing different clothes and taking another taxi. His phone was turned off that same day, and his bank accounts were drained, including a $600,000 withdrawal from a family trust fund later that month. A month after Peter's disappearance, his father finally told the police that he believed Peter had gone to Seattle, based on travel guides and books about life in Canada found in his home. Further investigations revealed that even though Peter had surrendered his passport, he had acquired multiple fake IDs and forged identity documents through the black market using various aliases. For 2 years, Peter had secretly transferred millions of dollars from bank accounts he had access to into family members' accounts and withdrew large sums of cash from credit cards as an advance for his escape. So, where did Peter go? Would the police be able to catch him? No one expected that this would mark the beginning of an international manhunt for a fugitive murderer. By 2018, 5 years after the crime, the case remained at a standstill. The Newport Beach Police Department appointed a new police chief, Chadwick, who took an interest in this cold case. He asked the department's spokesperson, Jenny Manzella, if she had any ideas on how to reignite public interest in the case. Jenny decided to leverage the power of social media and created a blog campaign. This led to the launch of Countdown to Capture, a series of digital content released by the Newport Beach Police Department. The campaign included short films that presented details of the case, how Quichu's body was discovered, and the police's ongoing efforts to locate Peter, who had been on the run for years. The campaign proved highly successful in bringing renewed public attention to the case. At the same time, it put immense pressure on Peter as his photos and interrogation footage spread rapidly across the internet, reaching far corners of the world. Building on this momentum, the police expanded their search for Peter in Canada and Mexico, adding him to the international most wanted list. By 2018, Peter was officially placed on the FBI's top 15 most wanted fugitives list, with a $100,000 reward for information leading to his capture. Under Chief Chadwick's leadership, investigators re-examined previously overlooked details and gathered more evidence regarding Peter's true motive for the murder. To the outside world, Peter and Quichu seemed like a wealthy couple who had it all. Most of their fortune came from Peter's early real estate investments. Their rental income allowed them to live comfortably, frequently hosting parties for friends and taking their children on luxurious vacations worldwide. They were perceived as a happy, loving couple. However, Quichu's close friend, referred to as A, had a very different perspective. She revealed that Quichu had been deeply troubled recently, as she had discovered that Peter was cheating on her. Their marriage was on the brink of collapse. Quichu confided in her friend, saying that she had stumbled upon suspicious evidence on Peter's computer. The findings included multiple searches for massage escorts while he was on business trips. Additionally, large amounts of money had mysteriously disappeared from their finances. Although she hadn't yet determined whether Peter was funneling money to a mistress or spending it elsewhere, she knew something was very wrong. But friend A believed that Quichu had already made up her mind about divorce. On one hand, she was gathering evidence of Peter's infidelity, and on the other, she had already made initial contact with a divorce attorney. However, as a devoted mother, she hesitated. She didn't want her children to lose what had once been a happy family. Even just days before her death, she was still tutoring her youngest child, taking the kids out for nice meals, and had even made plans for a Thanksgiving vacation. When faced with the decision of whether to leave her marriage, Quichu was still wavering, for the sake of her children. Perhaps during this time she had a realization. Instead of focusing on Peter's betrayal, she should focus on herself. She began exercising to lose weight, learning how to do makeup, choosing her outfits more carefully, and spending more time going out with friends. It seemed as though she was slowly transitioning from being a housewife back to an independent woman. Meanwhile, neighbors also noticed growing tension between the couple. In the past 6 months, their arguments had become more frequent. In fact, on the very morning before the murder, a neighbor exercising outside heard yelling from inside the house. However, at the time, they assumed it was just another typical marital dispute and paid no attention, never imagining that a murder was about to take place. In the final episode of Countdown to Capture, produced by the Newport Beach Police Department, Chief Chadwick sent a direct warning to Peter through the screen. "Peter, end this now. We are coming for you. From this moment forward, the countdown to your capture has begun." And indeed, justice was served. Shortly after the release of the episode, with the growing momentum of the case, the power of social media, and vigilant internet users, the hunt for Peter Chadwick took a major turn. After more than 3 years on the run, thanks to cooperation between U.S. federal authorities and Mexican law enforcement, reports from the public led police to Peter's whereabouts. he had been spotted in Cholula, Mexico. Tracing his movements and phone records, police intercepted a call Peter had secretly made to his family from a public phone. Using this lead, they pinpointed his location and successfully arrested him. By the time he was captured and extradited back to the U.S. in August 2019, Peter had been a fugitive for nearly 5 years. The once wealthy millionaire looked completely unrecognizable, disheveled, with a scruffy beard, resembling a homeless drifter. Investigators later learned that Peter had fled to Mexico with a large sum of money with the help of his family. At first, he lived under an alias in luxury resorts, but when his trail went cold, he had to constantly switch hotels to avoid detection. However, as immigration policies tightened, many hotels and even small inns started requiring passports for check-in. With fewer options, he was forced to move into low-budget motels and run-down accommodations. To make matters worse, his money was running out, and he could no longer directly contact his family. To avoid burning through his remaining cash, Peter Chadwick even took a discreet, off-the-books job at an auto repair shop. To his co-workers, he claimed that he was a secret agent working undercover to monitor Mexican drug cartels. Finally, in 2022, nearly a decade after the murder of Quichu, Peter Chadwick confessed. He admitted that on October 10, 2012, he strangled his wife in their Newport Beach home during an argument about divorce and financial matters. Based on his plea agreement, the Orange County Superior Court convicted him of second-degree murder and immediately sentenced him to 15 years to life in prison. As part of the negotiated plea deal with prosecutors, 57-year-old Peter Chadwick waived all parental rights and must serve at least 85% of his sentence before being eligible for parole. In court, Peter broke down in tears, telling the Orange County Superior Court judge that he deeply regretted killing his wife and that he saw himself as a loving and caring man. He stated, "I wish I could take back what I did to my wife. Every day on the run, I lived with overwhelming remorse. I destroyed everything, and this is the punishment I deserve." Following the sentencing, the Orange County District Attorney spoke to the media saying, "We could have charged him with first-degree murder, but given that the 3 children lost both parents in a single day, and with the consent of Quichu's family, we allowed him to accept a plea deal." That concludes the first story. But don't go anywhere. Our second story begins right now. Let's go back to 2019 to uncover a case that took place in Shihui Village, Hongqiao Town, Yutian County, Tangshan City, Hebei Province, China. On November 22, 2019, police received a distressed call from an elderly woman. She reported that her second daughter, Wang Na, had been missing for 2 days under unusual circumstances. Wang Na owned a butcher shop in town that was always busy with customers, keeping her occupied throughout the day. She left her 3-year-old child in the care of her mother. Normally, after work, Wang Na would return home on time to take care of her child. However, for the past 2 days, she had been completely unreachable. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and when her mother went to the shop to look for her, she found it locked up and not in operation. Growing more concerned, the elderly woman contacted the police, hoping they could quickly find her daughter. Upon receiving the report, the police immediately launched an investigation. Wang Na was born in 1986, making her 33 years old at the time. She rented a street-facing butcher shop in a bustling commercial area where she ran a business under the sign Na's Beef, Lamb, and Pork Shop. Given the circumstances, police headed straight to Wang Na's shop as their first point of investigation. At first glance, the shop's exterior showed no obvious signs of disturbance. However, one sharp-eyed officer noticed unusual marks on the shop's rolling shutter. Sensing something off, the police immediately cordoned off the area. Peering through the window, officers spotted red stains all over the shop's interior. Needless to say, everyone could already guess what those stains were. Upon closer examination of the scene, forensic investigators confirmed the red stains inside the butcher shop were human blood, not from cattle, lamb, or pork. Even more disturbingly, they discovered human tissue fragments at the scene. A preliminary assessment suggested that Wang Na may have met with foul play. Given the serious nature of the case, The Yutian County Police immediately formed a special task force to conduct a deeper investigation. The key questions now were the human remains and bloodstains in the shop from Wang Na? If they weren't hers, then where was she? To answer these questions, police needed more evidence. Interestingly, the crime scene showed no signs of a violent struggle. However, in the southwest corner of the shop, officers found a double bed piled with messy belongings. 2 large red stains covered the bed, and toilet paper and plastic bags had been used to wipe the edges of the mattress. Suspiciously, the bed was missing its bedsheet. Investigators also found a sharp knife, a cleaver, and an axe at the scene. While such tools were expected in a butcher shop, the knives appeared clean with no visible bloodstains. However, a mop and broom in the room had traces of blood. Additionally, there were still wet spots on the floor, leading officers to believe someone had attempted to clean up the crime scene. Now, the most critical question remained. If shop owner Wang Na had truly been murdered, where was her body? Regarding this, one team of officers continued examining the crime scene, while another team interviewed locals and nearby shop owners. Directly across from Wang Na's butcher shop was a large supermarket equipped with surveillance cameras. Police immediately reviewed the footage from 2 days before the missing person report was filed. Upon reviewing the surveillance footage, officers discovered something highly unusual. At 11:49 p.m. on November 20th, 2019, the metal shutter of Wang Na's shop was opened from the inside. A woman in a half-seated position slowly collapsed to the ground. It was evident from the footage that she appeared unconscious as she fell. At that moment, a man crouched down beside her, seemingly trying to lift her up. After family members identified the woman, police confirmed that the unconscious woman was indeed Wang Na. Further examination of the spot where she collapsed revealed deep scratches on the ground. Based on the video footage and the crime scene conditions, police theorized that Wang Na may have been severely injured, or even murdered, by the time she fell outside. There was no doubt that the man beside her in the footage was the prime suspect. But who was he? And why was he with Wang Na so late at night? Following this lead, investigators expanded their search by interviewing more people. Soon, a crucial witness emerged, a man with the last name Zhao, who claimed to be a friend of Wang Na. Zhao told the police that on the night of November 20th, 2019, he had stopped by Wang Na's shop. Zhao, who ran a street-side grilled skewer business, said that after finishing up for the night, he went to Wang Na's shop to exchange small bills for change. When he arrived, the butcher shop was already closed, but he noticed that besides Wang Na, her ex-husband, Wang Chun, was also inside. Zhao recalled that Wang Na and Wang Chun were drinking together. He noted that Wang Na was drinking baijiu, Chinese white liquor, while Wang Chun was drinking beer. Their behavior seemed completely normal, and after spending about an hour there, Zhao left. Surveillance footage confirmed that after Zhao left, no one else entered the butcher shop. Meanwhile, as police continued combing through the crime scene, they made another disturbing discovery: a handwritten letter. The letter was addressed to Wang Na's eldest son, and the title Will was written in Pinyin, the Romanized phonetic system of Mandarin Chinese. The content of the will contained only 2 short sentences. To my 3 sons, your parents' ashes will be scattered at sea. The remaining assets will belong to you 3. From the writing style, police concluded that the letter had been written by Wang Chun, her ex-husband. They speculated that after committing the crime, Wang Chun may have intended to take his own life alongside his ex-wife. However, the surveillance footage painted a different story. After Wang Na collapsed, Wang Chun carried her back inside and shut the rolling metal door. What happened next behind the closed door remained unknown. But moments later, Wang Chun reopened the metal shutter, left the shop, and drove away in a small truck. This raised serious questions for the investigators. Was he trying to escape? Or was he looking for another place to carry out his original plan? Then came an unexpected twist. Shortly after leaving, Wang Chun drove back to the butcher shop. Surveillance footage showed that between midnight and 5 a.m. on November 21st, 2019, over the span of 5 hours, Wang Chun drove back and forth to the butcher shop a total of 8 times. At 2:23 a.m., surveillance footage captured Wang Chun carrying a plastic bag out of the butcher shop. Shortly after, he loaded 7 tightly sealed plastic bags into his small truck. Once everything was loaded, he drove away. What surprised the police even more was that Wang Chun later returned and unloaded 8 plastic bags filled with unknown items back into the shop. From the footage, these 8 bags didn't seem heavy. So, what was inside them? Clearly, it wasn't freshly purchased beef or lamb delivered at midnight. Based on police analysis, they concluded that not only had Wang Na been murdered, but Wang Chun had likely moved her body. The next crucial step for investigators was to find Wang Chun. By 2019, surveillance cameras were widespread across China, even in small villages where security awareness was high. Sure enough, police spotted Wang Chun on a supermarket surveillance camera. He was seen buying paper, a pen, and cigarettes. From this, investigators believed Wang Chun had no intention of fleeing far. But where did he go after driving away in the truck? The Yutian police immediately distributed Wang Chun's photo and vehicle details to surrounding regions. Just 5 hours later, they received a report. A patrol team had found the small truck abandoned by the roadside. The truck bed showed signs of being hosed down with water, and in the back seat, police found a partially eaten carrot. Inside the truck, they also discovered a letter, written in Wang Chun's handwriting. In the letter, he claimed that Wang Na had taken her own life. He also wrote that since Wang Na loved clean water, he buried her somewhere near mountains and rivers. Based on these findings, police formulated a new theory. Wang Chun had dropped out of school at age 12 and had lived in Yutian for most of his life. His family and friends were all in the Yutian area, making it unlikely that he would flee far from home. He left with very little cash, reducing his chances of escaping to another province. To cut off any support Wang Chun might receive, the police monitored his family and close acquaintances. But after a full day of investigation, they still found no trace of him. At this point, given the scale of the manhunt, officers wondered, would Wang Chun, cornered with no escape, choose to end his own life? Or was he still hiding somewhere nearby? Regardless of Wang Chun's whereabouts, police urgently needed to locate Wang Na's remains. From the 2 letters he left behind, it was clear that despite everything, Wang Chun still had lingering feelings for his ex-wife. Therefore, police believed that finding her body would likely lead them to Wang Chun. By analyzing his previous driving route, investigators narrowed down a key area for further searches. Soon, in Nanhui village, police found tire tracks that seemed to match Wang Chun's truck. A village official provided an important clue. The local landfill was undergoing renovation, and Wang Chun was aware of this. This led them to suspect, had Wang Chun buried the body in the landfill knowing it would soon be covered up? Police immediately searched the landfill but found nothing suspicious. However, a nearby river caught their attention. Despite it being winter, the water hadn't frozen over. Could Wang Chun have dumped the body in the river? Following the riverbank, police soon made a critical discovery. Several discarded items belonging to Wang Chun were scattered along the shore. Police immediately launched a large-scale search in the area. Soon, they discovered more and more red plastic bags. Forensic examination later confirmed that the discarded items along the embankment were indeed the remains of the victim, Wang Na. Clearly, the varying sizes of these plastic bags indicated that Wang Na's body was no longer intact. With the initial search for Wang Na completed, police now needed to quickly apprehend Wang Chun to bring the case to a close. Before long, a local resident provided a crucial tip. An unusual sight was spotted in a field south of Xiaohuzhuang village in Hongqiao town. A pile of corn stalks had been stacked there, with some Napa cabbage nearby that had been eaten. As previously mentioned, Wang Chun had abandoned his truck and had no means of transportation, making it highly likely that he was still hiding somewhere in Hongqiao town. The police search perimeter was narrowing. By November in Yutian, nighttime temperatures had dropped below freezing. For Wang Chun, who was evading capture in the wilderness, his options for hiding were running out. Before long, a villager reported seeing Wang Chun visiting his family's grave once again. Police immediately launched an operation to surround and capture him, quickly setting up a comprehensive control perimeter. At the arrest scene, Wang Chun realized there was no escape. Just as he was about to be taken into custody, he attempted to stab himself with a knife. The officers on the scene immediately called for emergency medical assistance. Paramedics arrived and determined that the knife wound was not life-threatening, but in an act of humanity, they transported him to the hospital for treatment. At the hospital, police conducted a brief interrogation. Wang Chun admitted to murdering Wang Na and dismembering her body before disposing of the remains. His brutal actions were so extreme that even his own father struggled to accept what he had done, let alone the fact that Wang Na was his wife of nearly 20 years. So what had led to this horrifying crime? The relationship between Wang Chun and Wang Na dated back to when Wang Na was 15 years old. At that time, she was sent to live with Wang Chun's family. The two were 6 years apart in age and grew up together like childhood sweethearts. In 2006, Wang Na and Wang Chun got married. Wang Na was outgoing and lively, whereas Wang Chun's personality was the complete opposite. He was quiet and introverted. Despite having 3 children together, their vastly different temperaments led to frequent conflicts in their marriage. Over the years, Wang Chun and Wang Na divorced and remarried multiple times. By November 2018, they divorced for the 4th time. This time, Wang Na had reached her breaking point, unable to tolerate Wang Chun's gambling addiction any longer. They had never been wealthy, and Wang Na had repeatedly helped pay off his debts, only for Wang Chun to continue gambling. After this final divorce, Wang Na was completely disillusioned and moved out of Wang Chun's home. Determined to start over, Wang Na began dating someone new after leaving Wang Chun. However, Wang Chun could not accept that she had moved on. He frequently sought her out, but she ignored him. When he realized that Wang Na was truly cutting ties with him, Wang Chun even took their 2 children to the riverbank, threatening to harm them as leverage to force her to remarry him. Wang Chun had believed that intimidating his ex-wife would make her give in, but his threats failed to achieve their intended effect. By this point, Wang Na was determined to sever all ties with him. But Wang Chun refused to let go. For over a year, the two engaged in continuous arguments, which at times escalated into violent physical altercations. According to village officials, Wang Chun even used an iron rod to strike Wang Na on the head. After mediation by the village authorities and the local police station, their relationship temporarily calmed down. In 2019, Wang Na opened a butcher shop in town. Her business thrived, and she needed an extra hand, so she hired Wang Chun to handle meat procurement. Wang Chun believed that Wang Na had agreed to reconcile with him, but wanted to observe his behavior first. This gave him a glimmer of hope as he worked at the butcher shop. However, less than a month after Wang Chun started working there, on the night of November 20th, 2019, an incident occurred while the two were drinking together. This event completely shattered Wang Chun's illusion of remarrying Wang Na. Wang Chun accidentally discovered an ambiguous message on Wang Na's phone from another man, someone she had previously dated. Enraged by this discovery, Wang Chun immediately called the man and told him, "Wang Na is about to remarry me, so stop bothering her." But the moment Wang Chun hung up, the man called Wang Na's phone again. Furious, Wang Chun snatched her phone and answered. The two men began arguing over the phone. Wang Na, realizing what was happening, rushed over to take her phone back. At that moment, as she grabbed the phone, Wang Chun realized that his ex-wife was not actually rejecting other men. A surge of resentment and anger took over him. Fueled by alcohol, he smashed the phone to the ground and brutally attacked Wang Na. These were the strange scenes captured by the surveillance cameras. At this point, the case became clear. Wang Chun was finally arrested by local authorities and charged with intentional homicide. The only thing awaiting him was the full force of the law. On November 15th, 2021, Wang Chun's trial took place at the Tangshan High Court. He faced 2 charges: intentional homicide and destruction of a corpse. Initially, he was sentenced to death, but due to the pleas from the victim's family and their 3 young children, His sentence was reduced to life imprisonment. That was the final verdict for this selfish and ruthless husband. Dear viewers, after 4 divorces and 3 remarriages, the tangled relationship between Wang Na and Wang Chun dragged on for far too long. In the end, Wang Chun's lack of self-control destroyed his own family with his own hands. This case leaves us with something to reflect on. In marital and relationship disputes, what should women in vulnerable positions do when facing harassment or threats from an ex-spouse? Should they continue to endure and compromise, or should they stand up and actively protect their own rights? I believe those of you watching this video already have the answer in your hearts. What are your thoughts on these 2 cases? Share them in the comments below. For now, goodbye and see you next time.